Tekken 8, the full Game Awards trailer breakdown. Katsuhiro Harada. June has always been close to animals, Harada says. They approach her in various movies because she's into the conservation of wildlife, but it also speaks to martial arts. I'm not sure this is well understood in the West, but from a Japanese mentality of martial arts, you have these skilled warriors who are fighting throughout history. They have a fighting spirit that emanates from them, and, likewise, you can detect it off of your opponents if they're highly skilled and trained. It's said in Japanese lore that when they achieve a higher level of mastery, they're intentionally able to avoid projecting that fighting spirit. The birds and animals approaching her show that she is able to avoid emanating that fighting spirit. It's a very Eastern concept. That concept reflects her fighting style as well. Harada couldn't provide much detail about how June fights, but she is still using the Kazama traditional style martial arts she employed in earlier appearances. While Tekken 8 as a whole is built on aggression, more on that later, and June is more than capable of fighting aggressively, June does possess unique defensive capabilities where she can neutralize opponents' attacks. You may notice that we have kept some elements that have defined these particular characters, but the costumes have been completely redesigned for this iteration. But not just the look of a character, the actual character models themselves, including the rigging and the bones, were made from scratch for Tekken 8. So when you see the game, they look completely different and the game feels a lot more fresh because of the extra work that went into redoing these models. This is important because it's not like the human eye where you're seeing the reflection of the light. You're creating how this is supposed to look artificially, so the lighting and the environmental effects and these kinds of things that make the game more immersive are actually going to improve, Harada says. Some of this is due to the way our designers designed the stages to give it a totally different feeling, but a lot of it is the technical prowess of Unreal Engine 5 and the technology we have access to this time as opposed to Unreal Engine 4. Many of the things we've achieved in the game you could technically perhaps do in Unreal Engine 4. It's just really maxing out the specs, like the depth field and the dynamic lighting you see in the bird scene. You could do some of these things before, but doing them all at the same time at a smooth frame rate, and while moving the camera around, and it coming together is something you need the machine power of the new consoles and the improvements to UE5 to accomplish, Harada says. It sounds so simple when you say lighting, but if you look at cinematography in movies, it's very important how they do the lighting and it can change the whole look of something. Those advances in lighting technology greatly affect the models and everything else about the game. That said, it also means we have to spend a lot more time on getting the scenes exactly right, so there's a lot more work that goes into that as well. The key word to relay the concept for the battle system is aggressiveness, Harada says. This is something we've focused on in all the various elements of the gameplay. Fighting games are kind of an interesting genre because it's you and another human opponent in most cases, right? Say if somehow you're both able to block 100% of attacks, then the match itself wouldn't progress because nobody would do damage. We felt that the person attacking should be really enjoying the gameplay and enjoying themselves and to feel like they're at advantage and they have a better chance to win if they go on the offensive rather than turtling up. It's not just important that a game be fun for the person playing it. It has to look fun to play to captivate and bring in new people. That was the design philosophy that we implemented in Tekken 7 and it turned into a strong conviction after seeing that was the case and we should improve that experience for Tekken 8, Harada says. This ties into aggressiveness as well. If you're looking at the esports scene where two people are at the same kind of level, there might not be a lot of offense going on because it's hard for both players to open up their opponent and not a whole lot happens. And you can see this in boxing and other martial arts as well when two people are on the same skill level and there's not a lot of attacking going on. We wanted to make sure the game is entertaining to watch by motivating players to go on offense and to try to open up their opponents, not just because it makes the game more enjoyable for them, but a much more entertaining experience for spectators, too. This goes throughout the game, the stage destruction, the reactions of characters when they're being hit, the camera, and the way it moves when all this action unfolds, Harada says. It's not just about esports and people who are interested in that scene, it's about making the game interesting to watch and to experience as a whole, whether that's against a human opponent or you're just playing against the CPU.